Some major news happened for California in the midst of all these riots happening. While the riots in LA and now all over the country are dominating headlines, social media posts, and news outlets, President Trump yesterday signed the resolutions ending California's 2035 EV car mandate. The resolution Thursday that was signed repealed the Environmental Protection Agency waiver for California's 2035 mandate, which aimed to end the sale of new gas-powered cars in the state by 2035. It was passed in December 2024 by the Biden administration to attempt to Trump-proof the mandate. Two other resolutions were also passed that repealed two other EPA waivers: the heavy-duty truck mandate and the low nitrogen oxide truck emissions rule. These resolutions were passed last month by the House of Representatives and the Senate, finally landing on the president's desk yesterday. This is huge for the state. There aren't any solid concrete numbers to support the approval for EV. However, there are some polls out there that support people opposing the EV mandate. 60% of Californians oppose the EV mandate, and only 35% support it. Nationally, 51% of US adults are open to owning an EV, while 3% own one, 8% are seriously considering it, and 40% might consider. 47% wouldn't buy one at all, which is lower than last year, which was 59%. The point of all these numbers is that it isn't a mandate. Governor Newsom, AG Bonta, the Cali PA, CARB constantly say it's a mandate from the people. It's a mandate. But what they're doing is eliminating choice. Based on these numbers, the majority of Californians are considering buying an EV or are open to possibly considering to buying one. You're now forcing people to purchase electrical vehicles against their will. You're completely eliminating choice. Not to mention, you're also forcing companies to make only one product. There's one thing for government to get involved with business and say, you can't abuse children, you can't overwork people, you gotta provide a decent wage, you can't take advantage and abuse people. However, this is completely different. If a company like Ford makes a car and a truck, you're basically saying you can only make cars. That's it. And the ripple effect is even worse because California is about 12% to 15% of the car market. And there's 11 other states that follow suit following California with their EV mandates. And that equates to almost 40% of the car market. So now you're affecting the entire nation and saying to the entire nation, you can only buy EV vehicles. Because it doesn't make sense for a company to produce gas vehicles if 40% to 50% of the market are only going to buy EV. And of course, after President Trump signed these resolutions, Attorney General Bonta and Gavin Newsom filed lawsuits to oppose these resolutions. And I have a feeling they know full well they're gonna lose, just like every single lawsuit so far. Like the National Guard lawsuit during the riots, it's just for headlines. He doesn't care, they don't care what the result is as long as they get the headline. If you looked on social media regarding the National Guard, as soon as he sued, the federal district judge in San Francisco blocked the deployment of National Guard to Los Angeles and relinquished it back to California. 3 hours later, the Supreme Court reversed that decision, but the damage was done. It was all over. It's political theater. It's all about the headlines. And it's super rich. Governor Newsom sits there, grandstands on his podium, and talks about President Trump being a dictator, when in reality, he's projecting because he's the one that's being a dictator. Like I said before, the majority of Americans and Californians don't want electric vehicles. They want the choice. They want the options. They don't want to spend $8 to $10 in gas, but they have to because they have no other choice. And the argument of saying, well, they should just get EV vehicles. See, the average electric vehicle costs $60,000. With today's interest rates, that's over $1,000 a month in payments. You also have electricity, which are also ridiculously expensive in California, the highest in the nation, and then add the cost of insurance, which is also ridiculous in California because of ridiculous policies and legislation. You're asking people to spend $2,000 a month on an EV vehicle that they can't even afford. How about the disadvantaged people of color and poor people in disenfranchised communities? What about them who can't afford electric vehicles? What about people who live in apartments? Granted, yes, there are some apartments that are starting to put electrical vehicle charging stations. However, those are really high-end apartments. Those are apartments and condos and townhomes that cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month. And on top of that, spend $2,000 a month on an EV vehicle. It's not fair. You want to talk about dictatorship and eliminating free choice and eliminating a free market? That's exactly what Governor Newsom's doing. So I don't want to hear anything about the administration being a dictator. In fact, I would do the opposite. I would say he's restoring law and order. He's protecting the people of Los Angeles from violence. He's protecting small businesses from destruction. But again, to get back on track.
It also stops a dozen other blue states that were set to follow California's lead with copycat mandates.
This is a huge win for sanity in California, and as you just said, really for all Americans, because there were a dozen states tied to this, and it was forcing the auto industry into a very bad situation, having to essentially comply with California's standards nationwide. And so it's important to emphasize that the sheer breadth of what Gavin Newsom tried to do. He literally tried to ban gas cars in the state of California, which the vast majority of Californians drive, which the vast majority of Americans drive. And no one ever voted on that. It was something that he issued. The legislature didn't vote on it. Congress had never voted on it. And yet he wanted to make that decision on behalf of every single California driver. As it happens, the resolution that I introduced to reverse his ban got bipartisan support. We got 35 Democrats to vote for it in the House of Representatives. And I think this is the latest sign that common sense is returning to America, and common sense is even returning to California.
95% of Democrat voters, or the solid Democrat base, all they want is for their leaders to oppose Trump. They don't care about the consequences or effects of what that does. So if Trump says the sky is blue, they're gonna call him a liar, and they want you to say, no, it's not, it's green, or it's light blue or something. It doesn't matter. He's just getting the headline and opposing Trump. And that's the purpose of these executive orders. Again, he knows he's gonna lose. It's not gonna go through, but it's all about the headline. This is great politically for him, short term. He's gonna galvanize the base. The Democrat Party right now, nationally at least, has no clear leader. And I would even argue in California, there's no one. Right now, the front runner in the Democrat Party for governor is Kamala Harris. And she got the lowest votes since Reagan. So that doesn't bode well for the Democrats nationally or within the state.
Yeah, let's just start off. If Gavin Newsom wanted to take on Donald Trump and loves the attention, he has 100% gotten it. Take a look here. Google searches of Gavin Newsom with Donald Trump. Get this up. 9,700% versus a week ago. More folks are Googling Gavin Newsom's name with Donald Trump than ever before in Google searches dating all the way back since 2004. Donald Trump was able to make a name for himself through The Apprentice, through all of his business ventures. He is now making a name for Gavin Newsom, who seems more than willing to relish in this fight. Yeah, why is it that Gavin Newsom is more than willing to take on Donald Trump? And you know, it's all about 2028, and it's all about where Democrats want their candidates to be. Should Democrats oppose Donald Trump more? Among Democrats, look at this. 84% of Democrats nationwide say they want Democrats to take on Donald Trump more. This is not 2017 anymore, where the majority of Democrats want to compromise with Donald Trump. No, they want a fighter with Donald Trump. And at this particular point, that is a big reason why Gavin Newsom, in my opinion, at least politically speaking, is leaning into this fight, because he is thinking ahead to the future. He's thinking ahead to 2028. And with a vast majority, look, you rarely get 84% of Democrats to agree on anything except for the dislike of Donald Trump. And that is what we see right now. They want that opposition of Donald Trump. And that is why Gavin Newsom seems to be more than willing to take him on. Yeah, this is so important to point out. Where is this race right now? The top chances to be the 2028 nominee. Look, it's a clown car at this particular point. All these candidates squished together, but you'll notice that one name is ahead of the rest, and that's Gavin Newsom at 12%. You see Ocasio-Cortez 10, Buttigieg 10, Shapiro 6%. But Gavin Newsom certainly is up there right now in terms of the candidates who are best in position to get that 2028 nomination. And he knows that the best way to get this 2028 nomination is, again, to oppose Donald Trump, that 84% of Democrats who want it. And at this particular point, he's getting all that attention, as we see in those Google searches, up 9,700% versus a week ago, Newsom with Donald Trump.
So you tell me who's a dictator? President who wants to stop riots, protect cities, protect businesses, protect law enforcement officers? Or the guy making an entire industry bend to his will and forcing the entire nation to drive electric vehicles and eliminating the choice and eliminating the free market and using it all for his political gain so he can run for president in 2028. But anyway, I try to hit two topics there at the same time and tied them together to make a point. I really think these EV mandates being repealed is a great thing. I think it's going to make California more affordable. I think it's going to have a positive effect with the cost of living. The next step is to repeal the carb fuel tax that will be implemented 1st of July of this year. But let me know what you think. Like, comment, share this video, and possibly subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.